Hello and welcome. What is going on? Matt O'Leary, Jeremy, Jets Chaos, hanging out with you. We've made the transition, Jeremy. We're over on my channel now, but it's the same deal. It's a reality check that was on Talking Jets. It's going to be the same show here. We're going to go through, have a topic each week, and camp standouts this week in particular. We'll go through the chat like always. I'm very excited to be back with you, Jeremy.
Man, I missed it so much. There's nobody I'd rather yuck it up with. So it's so good to be here, man. I was waiting for this, waiting for camp to start. And here we go, man. We get to do our show, which is one of my favorite hours of the week every week for sure.
Absolutely. It's a ton of fun to just bounce back and forth with Jeremy and the chat. Same thing. This show's very, if you're new, maybe you don't follow Talking Jets and haven't seen the show, it's very chat orientated. So make sure you get your comments, questions, everything. We'll pull them up as we go along. But the theme here is we like to give a reality check, hence the name, right, on what's going on right now. And yesterday there was some, I'm going to classify it as mass confusion, Jeremy, on this Justin Fields injury, because it came across so much worse than what it actually ended up being. So Justin Fields gets carted off, and we get the whole, he stood up, he sat down, he stood up, and then got on the cart. And I immediately had flashbacks to Aaron Rodgers in week 1 when he did the same thing and then got on a cart, and we know how that ended. But now we find out that it's just a toe, and it's not even a broken toe. It's dislocated. So
it's not even the big toe.
It's not even the big toe. So your reaction to what initially, and then maybe just how it changed throughout the day and into today from yesterday?
Yeah, I think I had what I would call a normal expected reaction. It was, keep in mind, I'm 3 hours behind you. So it was early in the morning for me, and I have an early appointment. So I get into the office and I turn on my computer, and sure enough, I start seeing this, this news. The Field, was carted off the field, and people are texting me like crazy. Of course, I'm sure you get that, right? We got all our friends and viewers out there that, know how to get a hold of us on Twitter and everything. So all those messages started coming through. And my initial reaction was the normal to the trauma that we've suffered as Jet fans, right? It was panic. It was my heart sinking. It was my stomach turning. And it wasn't so much that Justin Fields, like, I'm not on the bandwagon either way of that he's bad or good. It wasn't that I thought, oh, we just lost our star player, our Pro Bowl player. But it was more like, they've been building all offseason. The entire plan is to have Justin Fields as the quarterback. So whether it works or not, the point is there's no way you want the entire plan to crumble, day two. And it brought back all the trauma of everything. Vinny Testaverde, Pennington with the arm, even Ken O'Brien with the arm. Like when do we ever get the break? Like how is this going to keep happening to us? The only reaction I didn't understand from fans is when I went on to Jake Asman's channel, of course, and was watching, is the people who right away started to turn on Aaron Glenn and our general manager, and Moogs, and I just don't understand it. Like, how stupid of them, and this is why there's get a new coach, and I'm not saying it was a lot of Jet fans, but for even just a few is too many for that kind of ridiculousness.
Yeah, so I was surprised when you told me that when we were texting on what we're going to talk about today. So was it they shouldn't have signed Justin Fields to begin with, and they were mad about that, or like that they could somehow predict that he was going to get hurt? Someone
was saying we should have drafted a quarterback, but who are we drafting? Like, who is going to come in? Even if we had drafted a quarterback, would that have been the answer? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it wouldn't have felt any better even if we had drafted someone, and what does that have to do with it? Like, yeah. After the fact, we should have drafted a quarterback. Oh, well, yeah. After the fact, I could say a lot of things.
But would we have felt great about Will Howard getting tossed into the mix, or like insert whatever mid-round quarterback you like the best at that point?
Right. Unless you're Matthew Smith and thought that we should have given, 20 draft picks, including our next 5 number ones, to trade up and get Cam Ward, that would have been his argument.
Okay. I wasn't a big enough Cam Ward guy to do that. I did think he was the best quarter, and the reason why he went number 1 I do think he was the best quarterback. But I, as stated for a long time, didn't really love this quarterback class, so I was okay with the Jets holding out on it. But I'm with you. Some of the reaction did feel like a lot, and maybe, hand up, I did fall victim to it a little bit, but it was hard not to until we heard Aaron Glenn speak and say that it was a toe injury.
Right.
Just because when you see someone get carted off, is your first thought, oh, they have a dislocated toe?
No, and there was no at the time. From what the reporters and people or whoever was able to see, the first reports were basically saying no contact. Right? Like the early reports were no contact. So, I mean, we all know when typically some kind of lower extremity to the leg or ankle, foot, or whatever injury that's no contact is usually very bad news.
Yeah, it usually is very bad news. That's right. I want to, say what up to some people in the chat hanging out with us. Peter S is here. Happy Out Friday afternoon, the early portion of training camp. Absolutely love that. We got Tommy with us too. What's good, O'Leary and Jeremy? I went today and that was fun. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going tomorrow, so I'm going to leave Long Island at the ass crack of dawn, and I'll be there by 7:45 tomorrow.
Yeah, good for Tommy, man. That's awesome that you guys get to go. That's one thing I hate about living out west is I don't get to take advantage and go.
Selfishly, though, Jeremy, and I've definitely brought this up before, I hate that they don't practice at Hofstra anymore because for selfish reasons, I grew up 10 minutes. So it was so easy, even though, I'm on the East Coast and it's one state over going, from Long Island to Jersey. It's a whole day. It's like, an hour and a half, 2 hours there and back.
Well, I can imagine. I grew up in Canarsie in Brooklyn, right off the Belt Parkway. So when I was a kid, my friend's father would take us to to Hofstra. It wasn't a big deal at all. And like them moving to New Jersey would have, for me as a teenager, would have ended that. There's no way his dad was taking us to Jersey.
Yeah, so it draws the line in the sand, but I like to make the trip every once in a while. I like this comment from our guy John. Says cartage should be reserved for emergencies only. Right? Yeah, my initial thought, I went Achilles, and then I was thinking, could it be like a knee thing, kind of like what was it in 2022 with Zach Wilson in the preseason, where it was like a knee sprain and he missed like 3 weeks, and that was tough. But again, my thought wasn't, oh, he got stepped on and has a toe thing, because like you said, they said no contact too.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been precaution too. I mean, you don't know what it is yet. Like he might not have known. He just, like he got, like all of a sudden he feels this incredible pain from his foot. And it's, how pain is not always general for some people. Like there are some injuries where I've been hurt where I know exactly what's hurting, and there are injuries where I get hurt and I don't know what it is. It's like the whole area hurts. But I mean, I could see the training camp, trainers coming in saying we don't know exactly what's going on yet. Let's just keep him off it as much as possible. Ride him back and. And then when they said he was limping, people were like, well, why would you limp from a dislocated toe? Well, what are you talking about? That's just natural human. That's what a human being does. When you step on something, it hurts. You stop stepping on it as much. And you know what that's called? That's called, you probably have some kind of traumatic brain damage if you don't do that. So like, I'm just going to walk through the pain and not limp, when your body, pain is basically telling your brain something's wrong. And the limp is a way to protect yourself. So for the people who are saying, why was he limping? He was limping to take pressure off of this injury. I mean, to avoid feeling pain, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, the whole scenario made it look really bad. I really want to point out that I'm appreciative of the fact that Aaron Glenn did not waste any time, and he went right to it in the press conference and said toe, and kind of did that. But I don't know. I don't know if there's always someone to blame or point fingers at, No, like, it's just like, it is what it is. It's like when someone gets hurt, they don't talk until the doctors see them, which is the right move, right? That's the responsible thing to do. You don't say anything to the media or anyone until he's actually examined by a doctor. That was happening. The practice finished. Glenn comes out, told us what it was. Of course, we all have trauma. So we saw the cart and we all freaked out. But it's like, I don't know that there's always somebody to blame or point to in those situations.
No, it was a freak. It was an accident. We ended up, he got stepped on. That happens, right? Like your quarterback dropping back. Sometimes it's your own guy, an offensive lineman. It could be a defensive lineman, whatever. Like that's going to happen. And it is only day 2 of training camp. And I guess if we're looking at two positives here, one is it wasn't nearly as bad as what we originally thought it was going to be. And then number 2, on the second side of this, it's still July. He can rest for a few days. He's listed as day to day. I don't know if I would expect him out there practicing tomorrow when I go, but it's not like he's going to miss preseason games or like a whole big chunk of training camp here.
Well, he's jogging around the field today. They showed him signing autographs. He's running around, jogging. I have no question. There's no question in my mind. If there was a game on Sunday, he'd be playing.
No.
Right. I mean, that's how you have to think about it. That's how not serious it is. If there was a game on Sunday, I have no question in my mind he'd be playing. They would shoot him up with a cortisone shot or something, and he'd play. Tape
it up, and you're going in.
That's right. Whatever it is that they do, like he would just play. He's not going to miss a game over it. Players played much worse. I think the fact that he's jogging around shows that it's probably, I'm not a doctor. I don't want to be an internet doctor. But when you see somebody jogging around and you think dislocation, and just from my experience I dislocated my finger once, my father was able to pop it back because he knows when he was in the healthcare industry. And we put ice on it, and it was sore for a couple of days, and it hurt when I made a fist, and then it just got better. So I don't know. I'm assuming it's something like that.
Yeah, it's going to be tender. It's going to hurt for a few days, but he'll be back. Eli's saying, I don't think we overreacted. It's our starting quarterback, and the franchise hasn't had the best of luck. We were justified in thinking the worst. Yeah, I do agree. I don't think the majority overreacted. I think the angle that we were trying to take on this overreaction is that they somehow, people were using this to justify that they shouldn't have signed Justin Fields, and that, this should have been expected, sort of a thing.
Yeah. And I think that it is interesting and true that sometimes very few voices could be the loudest. Right. Like when I was telling you about watching Jake Asman's show, and there's these chats are coming in that are so negative, but when you count it up, it's scrolling up, Jake is Jake, right? He's got one of the biggest shows there is. So you have the chat, just hundreds of chats scrolling through. And if you actually did a poll, you counted, like out of the 30 chats that came in from 30 different usernames, 27 to 28 of them were perfectly reasonable things. They were saying, "Oh, this sucks. Oh my God, I hope he's okay." And you get one or two guys that are constantly, repeating it. We should have AG sucks. It's AG's fault, or we should have drafted a quarterback, and that feels the loudest because it's what affects you. It pisses you off, and you start thinking, "Oh my God, these Jet fans are so stupid. Like, what are they like? What are they saying? Like, why are you blaming AG?" And then it's like, well, it's not the Jet fans; it's one or two.
100%.
So,
I like that from our guy Johnny Boy. Good question, and maybe this could get us transitioning a little bit into some camp standouts. Although this isn't really highlighting a standout. He says, "Question for the panel. Thoughts on the reports about punter not looking good? Morstead is being missed? ? Supposedly, Jeremy, not only the punter, which good call out from Johnny, but the kicking competition also not going well."
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not worried about punter. I'm really not. I mean, okay, we're not going to have a Pro Bowl punter. Okay. But I think you could bring other people in. I'm sorry. I don't want to dismiss the position, but it's only a problem when you have the kind of weak coaching staff that doesn't take action, that allows a punter to struggle and for some reason stick with him when there's a million guys out there that can come in. We've seen guys come in. The way we originally got Morstead was he was off the chopping block, right? I mean, he was off a junk pile. It's not like it was hard to pick him up and sign him. So, if these guys don't pick it up, you bring in another couple of guys, and you find someone who could just punt the ball 40-something yards for 4.5 seconds per punt, and it's consistent, and that's it, and you live with it. The field goal kicking, I would like to see it resolved. Obviously, we don't want to lose games over it. I worry. Kicker is the position I worry about, like last year in the beginning of the year when I thought we had a chance to compete, right? Like in a year where deep in my heart, I know we got a lot of work to do, and we're hoping that maybe trying to find ways we could justify that we could win 9 games. Like I'm not panicking over kicker because I know we're not winning a championship anyway. But that being said, if there's a chance we could sneak into the playoffs and we lose a game and don't get into the playoffs because of a kicker, I'm going to be really upset.
Yeah, no, that's when it becomes frustrating. And right now, all these guys are young, right? Like McNamara and Kroger at punter, and then the kicking with Davis and the thicker kicker and Harrison Mevis. It hasn't gone well yet. It's still, we're only 2 days in, but if this is a trend that continues through into August and like maybe through a preseason game or two, then that's probably, in my opinion, at least when you might see a veteran get added. And you have guys who are pretty good, like Nick Folk. I know he's a million years old, but he's still kicked pretty well the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's funny how some of the guys we picked up ended up being the good people that we should have kept. You know, the one kid who came in,
Seibert,
Cairo or something, Gino or whatever his name is. He's in Chicago now or North or Carolina. Like we had a kicker come in and do perfectly fine, and then we let him go, and now he's like above average kicker in the league. It's just like, but it also makes me think that, like, yes, it's a concern. We have to find one, but at the same time, I feel like they're some of the easiest positions to fill in the sense of cost. Like, it doesn't cost you a lot. Like, if you do it right and bring in enough people, it's a position most often that you're able to fill without spending a lot of money, without having to make a major trade. It's like I've seen many examples of where, thank you, Eddie Pinero is the name I was thinking. But it's not that, it turns out that it's not that impossible to find them, and it doesn't cost a lot to find them. The problem is if you don't act and you ignore it and lose a game because of it, that's when it's a problem. But like when you're actually in training camp and bringing new people in, I'm not going to panic yet, because it's not like, a right guard went down and now we have to find a guard that we could trust to be on the starting offensive line. And it's like, how are you going to find that, in August? But like a kicker, you could still find in August, and a punter is the least of my concerns.
Connor Long, thank you so much for the super chat. Our guy Connor was at 2 of the 3 practices so far, and he said, I have now covered 2 of 3 practices, and the special teams has been awful. I doubt the punter and kicker are currently on the roster. It's been a tough watch. Our guy Dano, who's hanging out with us too, had a similar chat saying, true or false, the week 1 kicker is not currently on the roster. That might very well be the case, Jeremy, that the week 1 kicker and punter aren't here. And that kind of goes back to what we just talked about. I know it's looked bad, but I don't think they're going to just ride it out if it's this bad for the next 6 weeks and be like, okay, like these are our guys, we're just going to pick one. They could find someone else who's available in free agency.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just one of those positions where I'm not saying it's not important that you have one by opening day, but if all I know is if I'm a roster with holes, where do I want those holes to be as far as how fast we can turn it around and repair, right? Those holes and fill those holes. Kicker and punter is probably the cheapest and the easiest. Like if I was like, I'd rather have a problem and have to find a new punter than have a problem and have to find a new tight end because Mason Taylor, God forbid, didn't sign or something. Right. Like that would be a much bigger issue. Like if Will McDonald said suddenly, I'm holding out, I want a better contract. Not that I'm just as an example, or Jermaine Johnson, right? That's a much bigger problem and a harder problem to resolve than we're going to have to call in 3 or 4 punters. There are probably so many punters that would have been fine, good NFL punters, and never even got the shot because out of college, so like how do you even find them? There's so many of them that can do the job, and that it's some of it is just luck and opportunity to even get the opportunity, right? So you don't even know. And it's countless how many college punters you can look at numbers, who's able to punt it over 40 yards consistently that you can actually bring into camp if you had to. So yeah, I think that it's been 3 practices. If it continues, you're going to see new people come in, and we will find a kicker and a punter that at least in practice satisfies what we're looking for. And then we'll see how it goes in the season.
Absolutely. Matthew is a new member, the latest. Thank you for joining us, Matthew. We appreciate it. Welcome to the club here. Might be a good transition now. I know punter and kicker not really all that great, but has there been some standouts now? And you guys in the chat drop in who you think have been standing out. We'll talk about yours as well, but I'll ask Jeremy first. Excuse me. Either position, player, who's standing out to you right now?
Well, I mean, one of the things that, and I'm not saying he's going to be a star, but one of the players that I think that we all had, or a majority of the fan base wanted to chop and have on the chopping block, that actually might be an okay player, like a tight end too, is Jeremy Ruckert. And I see people mentioning him in the chat, had a nice catch. I think we had a serious issue with our coaching staff the last few years. They did a piss poor job in developing our offensive linemen and tight ends. And there's a possibility still that Jeremy Ruckert, I'm not saying he's going to be special or anything amazing, but I always liked him out of Ohio State. I thought he was a great blocker. I thought he did good his rookie year, and I think he regressed. And this is we're going to have a lot of players that we say this about, because we have a lot of young players. I think it's going to be interesting to see what this kid can be with a new coaching staff, and to see if he can salvage his career and get something out of him.
I really hope that's the case for Jeremy Ruckert, because I think he's an easy guy to root for, right? Like, he grew up a Jets fan and by all accounts seems like a really good dude. It just hasn't maybe worked out to the extent that we thought it would. But you bring up a good point in the coaching change, because there might be a few guys on this roster, or more than a few, that benefit from, the turnover. And it could be the positional coaches like Ron Middleton. We love the guy, but is he even coaching anywhere in the league right now? Or like Keith Carter was the offensive line coach. Are we going to see a bigger step from, Armand Membu and Olu Fashanu now that he's gone?
I mean, I already like what I'm hearing about the offensive line and the running game. Like, I'm hearing some nice things about Breece Hall breaking a few, and that the offensive line has been looking really good. We know they're in shorts, they're not in pads, but typically that's an advantage to the defense, not the offense. So the fact that they're actually looking good and we're hearing positive things, it's exactly what we're hoping for. I'm guessing the identity of this team starts with power running, and just being a strong running team. And we have 3 running backs. We have a 3-headed monster, or whatever you want to call it, in the running back room. If we have an offensive line that is, well coached, the individual talent is certainly there. They just got to be well coached and be a good unit. I'm excited about that.
I'm with you on that as well. One of the guys that I was going to say is the same as Fear is Grim, so I'm going to pull his up. Andre Cisco. He had a really big day today. Safety was a big issue for this team a year ago. Tony Adams and, the combination of Chuck Clark and Ashton Davis and everyone else that cycled through. Unfortunately, not very good. But Andre Cisco, 2 picks, was also had a pass defended too. And something I didn't know, he was back there returning some punts. I didn't know that Andre Cisco had punt return ability. Wow. That was a nice surprise.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that either. I know some people who are much more familiar with the Jacksonville Jaguars and this player, Cisco, who were very complimentary of our signing of him. And, I met somebody at the Senior Bowl who covers Jacksonville, and he reached out to me and said, you got yourselves a great player. And that the reason he was available at that price was because Jacksonville went to crap. Their defense, they fell apart. Like, we know what that's like when your team falls apart during a season. We watched Reed, our cornerback, fall off and play much worse as the season went on. We watched players, because that unfortunately happens a lot. When teams fall apart, it affects the players and the way they play. And Cisco has been in a very bad situation. He hasn't had good defensive coaching. He hasn't been part of an organization that's really known for good defense. But before last year, he was actually very good. Very good. Like, he was exciting. And the Jaguar fans were super excited about him. And he's a turnover machine. He's really good at finding the football. And I think we saw that today. And I think he's going to be a very pleasant surprise for us. I think that Jet fans are really going to love this kid. And I only wish we had him locked up longer. I think that one of the things is we're going to have to worry about extending him, because we only got him for, I think, locked under team control for a year.
For that 1 year. Exactly. Dano, shout out Dano. He has sends in a super chat here saying, shout out to Matt O'Leary for not monopolizing a reality check. Listen, we wanted to bring it back in some capacity. I think, Talking Jets is kind of just going to be the Tuesday show for now, but I love doing this show with Jeremy, so we had to bring it back, and now we're doing it over here on my channel.
Yeah, I mean, I said it to you when you told me the news. I said, look, we could be on your channel. We could be on this channel. We could be on a made-up channel called Dwarves Are Us. I don't know why I said that. It doesn't matter to me. We're here talking and chatting. I'm glad that we have your channel, because obviously you put in years of great work and you have a great following, and it gives us the opportunity for this show to get exposed to a lot of people, which is obviously a great thing. But nothing replaces, for me, just the opportunity to work with you and the fun that we have together. And and I believe if we do what we do and we enjoy what we do, if it's meant to be, we'll get a lot of people watching.
I agree. It's going to be fun. It's always a blast chopping it up with my guy Jets Chaos. I know we were on, and we're going to get to some more standouts, but I saw this chat that I wanted to pull up because I heard something today on this saying, what do you all think the rivalry jerseys will look like? So I heard from one of my guys with the Jets. I asked him about it because they put out the little teaser. Not a ton of info, but what I can tell you is I've heard it says Gotham on it, and it's going to be like a dark gray color. That's all I got, but that could be interesting, right? A dark gray Jets uniform.
It'd be kind of cool. I mean, I hate it. I hate the throwbacks to the 60s. Like, I don't like that at all. I was like, who are the Chargers? Like, I just didn't like it. But I don't know. That'll be cool. I typically find like when they do those uniforms, I don't get like the alternate jersey as much as I'm interested sometimes in the hats.
Okay.
I just think that like those are kind of cool. Like if it's like all of a sudden we have like a charcoal or dark kind of gray hat with the logo or something, that might look really cool.
Yeah, it looked like Glenn's press conference today, he was wearing, it was like a dark gray kind of hat. So I wonder if that was maybe even a little bit of a teaser too. So we'll keep an eye out on that. Jack Talks Jets. He's hanging with us and said he's heard Pritchett is doing pretty good right now in training camp. That's someone to me, Jeremy. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much he's going to give as a wide receiver, but part of me hopes that he can make the team just for his return ability, because I think he could potentially be a better returner than a guy like Xavier Gipson.
Yeah, I feel like we need it. I mean, we have the running back who was pretty freaking good at kickoff returns. So, but like seeing, Cisco returning and, punts, and then having, Pritchett is good at that. I mean, we needed to clean out last year's garbage. And, the Gipson punt returning, man, he, the only reason he had a job through last year in my mind is because he had, I understand he got the touchdown against Buffalo 2 years ago in the opener, and that got him a lot of leeway for a really long time. But man, he's just, I don't know about you, but I used to scream. And if anybody watches me with Green Bean reacting to the games, when it would punt and I'd watch him try to field a punt, I would scream, just let it go. Just let it go. I was actually screaming, just let it go. When you have to say, just let it go, when that's your level of trust with your punt returner, it's time to get a new punt returner.
He's the king of fielding punts at the 10 instead of just letting them bounce into the end zone. It's very frustrating. It's the little things, man. It's the little things that get us, right?
There was a time during the season where he had bobbled two of them or whatever. And I said to Green Bean, we went and they went back to punt. And I said to Green Bean, we should not have anybody back there. Like, if you don't have anybody better than Gipson, don't even put anyone back there. And it's not kickoffs, right? It's not like they could recover it. I said, just let it go, because it's just, I don't trust them, and we can't afford a turnover right now. And to my surprise, Frankie agreed with me. Frankie was like, was just like, I agree with Chaos. We shouldn't even have anybody back there.
It's bad. When it's to that level, that's how you know it's bad. We have Brian with the super chat. What's up, Brian? Says, little late to the party. Have we talked about A-Rod's first pass attempt at Steelers camp being a pick? I did see that. I saw also he had another interception today. Look, I want the Jets to beat up on the Steelers in week 1. I don't know how you feel about it or where you're at with it. I can't be looking every single day at training camp with Rodgers and being, oh, what did he do today? Did he play well? Oh, the Jets made a mistake, or he played like shit. Oh, good. The Jets moved on. Like, they made their decision. Let him go to Pittsburgh, and whatever happens, happens. That's where I am with it. How about you?
Yeah, my only feeling towards Aaron Rodgers, and what's the only thing left is what I would have a lot of trouble seeing. It's not that I want bad for him, but obviously I don't want to see him open up the season with 350 yards plus four touchdowns. Like, that is going to suck. right? And then all the Jet hater fans are going to be on all over our shit. And we're going to have to hear it, and it's going to suck in the media, and we're going to be the left. So that would be terrible. And then behind that, just if he has a 4,500 yard, 35 touchdown season, obviously we're never going to live that down. So not to be mean or anti Aaron Rodgers and root against the person, I have my personal reasons for not wanting that to happen, right? Because I have to deal with a lot of fallout from that, and my own fallout of just feeling like, are you kidding me? But other than that, I don't have much interest in him. Like, I just care about I care about them making the right decision with Justin Fields. Like, I don't want a situation where we end the season in the middle arguing over whether or not we need to draft a quarterback. Like, I really don't want to be in that position where we're sitting there where half the fan base is like, he was good enough. I think that we could just go with Fields now versus no, we need to draft a quarterback. Like, I hope whichever way it leans, I hope it's very clear.
Yes.
Like, clearly he's not the guy. We need to draft a quarterback. Or, oh my God, we struck gold. It's one of those great stories. We no longer have to worry about quarterback.
It'd be nice to have a definitive answer on Justin Fields, one way or the other. We both hope, obviously, it's on the positive side. He looks like a top 10 quarterback, and we'd be thrilled. We'd be happy. Great. Yeah. Keep it forward. But even if it is somewhere in the middle and you're like, maybe, I don't know, then you're probably better off drafting somebody at that point.
You just have to.
You have to. You can't double down on it. Johnny Boy says Corley. He's been growing right in front of our eyes. Johnny might be the biggest Malachi Corley supporter. Now, good day today. He caught a touchdown pass. Mm-hmm. He did have a drop yesterday. So mixed bag so far. Again, it's early. They've only had 3 practices. Where are you at right now with Malachi Corley and his chances of making this team?
Low expectations with a lot of hope and wanting to see him do well. This was a guy I really liked. Last year, a year and a half ago at the Senior Bowl, I was a big fan. Before I even knew he was going to be a Jet. When he got hurt during the Senior Bowl on the second day of practice, he ended up coming back. He was okay, but I remember being upset about it, saying, "Oh, there goes one of the good prospects." So I liked him. I'm out west. I see a lot of the Pac-10 games, so I got to see a lot of them. So the reason I say low expectations, I think, like, from a personnel, if I'm the GM, from a personnel standpoint, I think it would be a huge mistake to count on it, like to rely on him. But I'm not ready to give up on him. I still think, like, not by a long shot. Again, same situation as our offensive linemen, our backup guys that have been with the team, Mitchell and Warren, and the same situation with Ruckert. Same argument, right? I'd like to see him have an opportunity with the real coaching staff to see what he could do with, the kind of coaching staff that is going to hold you accountable, but at the same time, that doesn't have to equate to your season's over because you did a stupid boneheaded thing.
I want to see Malachi Corley have a strong summer, because the idea of just lighting a 3rd round pick on fire doesn't sit well with me, especially when you trade up for him. And there was all the hype from Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh that he was their guy, and they tried to get him, all through the 2nd round, and then it finally got him at the top of the 3rd round. I just think he really needs to prove himself to this staff. It's not a great wide receiver room outside of Garrett Wilson, so there's an opportunity there. But to me, it's up to him. I don't think his roster spot is guaranteed, and if he just has a poor to so-so camp, it's like, oh, well, we drafted this guy, and he's got to make the team. They weren't the ones who picked him. So if someone like Brandon Smith has a really strong camp and has a strong preseason, he might make the team. Xavier Gipson, I know I'm not the biggest Xavier Gipson fan, but it's really going to be dependent, I think, on what he does this summer and how the staff views the wide receiver room as a whole.
Yeah. And it'll be disappointing if he doesn't make the roster. If he doesn't make the roster, I don't think anybody should be yelling and cursing and saying they're stupid. What are they doing? If he doesn't make the roster with a brand new staff after what happened last year, and then doesn't do it with this staff, with this wide receiver room, like, it's not just not making the roster. You're not making the roster. You're not making the room with this particular room, which is very, very weak, right after Garrett Wilson. Then I won't doubt them or mistrust them. I'll say, obviously, there's something really wrong. He's just not developing as a route runner. Like that. That would be the obvious answer. He's just not doing it, or he's not putting the work in, or his attitude's not right. Like, that's what that would mean. Obviously, I don't want to see that be the case. I think that the kid, if he, we knew when we drafted him, by the way, this wasn't like a new thing. We knew when we drafted him. Anybody that was listening to Dom C and listen and watching the tape understood and knew, and Joe Blewett said it too, that he needed to work and develop his route running. Like, this was a thing that we knew. I think Play Like a Jet said the same. Everybody agreed that this was a kid who needed to work on his route running. So we knew it was a little bit of a project. He wasn't going to be a day one perfect, right? But there's a lot of potential in him if he can. And, he doesn't have to be a great route runner. We just need him to be an acceptable route runner. You're allowed to be a wide receiver whose strength is yards after catch, physicality, running through tackles, right? A great blocker. You're allowed to be good for that reason. There are plenty of receivers that are good for that reason. And then there are good receivers that get good because they're excellent route runners. But we need him to be functional as a route runner.
I'm with you on that one. Tony, the GM, is hanging with us, says Taylor had a nice touchdown play today. Yes, they did. I don't know if you saw it. The Mason Taylor diving catch in the end zone yesterday really stood out as a positive. Look, the Jets need Mason Taylor to come out of the gate and be good right away because he's going to start. The Jets tight end room has a ton of question marks, but I'm optimistic about Mason Taylor. Where are you with him just either so far in training camp and what kind of role you see for him this year?
Look, I have a long memory of tight ends that ended up being very good tight ends, but they weren't great their first year. Like, sometimes it takes time. And then I have examples, we all do, of tight ends who make an impact right away. Most recently, Sam Laporta, Brock Bowers. And we see them get on the field and right away make their team better. I don't think Taylor's going to have an impact of a Brock Bowers because he's simply not the weapon that Brock Bowers is. But he's a very well-balanced tight end, right? So he might not be the receiver that Bowers is, but he might be a very decent receiver who he's not the yak guy. He's not the guy that's going to catch the ball and then go far. But he's the 3rd down and 8 and catches that 9-yard pass and never drops it like a vacuum. So you think of him as that kind of player. He's not going to look like the guy who catches the ball, bounces the defender off of him, runs through 2 guys for another 30 yards. That's not his game. But I have no problem with it's 3rd down and 6 and have a guy that Justin Fields could dump the ball to a throw to. If he's under pressure, maybe it's not the most accurate throw, but a guy who's a vacuum, who makes the catch and gets us that 1st down and moves the chains. And I think that's what you could expect from him. And then what's nice about him is they don't know he's going to go out for a pass. He's not a one-dimensional player that right. Because he's on the field, they're thinking, oh, they're not going to run. They're going to run a route. Because the truth is he's fine right now. We don't know how good or bad he'll be or how much he'll excel. But as a prospect coming out of college, he's a fine blocking tight end. This is, out of the few tight ends that we should be happy about is we got one of the most balanced tight ends in this draft as far as, could do both and be a real true tight end.
For me, I think I just expect him to come in and be solid right away. I'm not saying I don't think he's going to be a top 10 tight end in year one. Maybe eventually he gets there. But can he catch 40 to 50 passes, have 500, 600 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns to go with it? I think that'd be a pretty nice rookie year and put him somewhere comfortably in the middle of the pack for tight ends, which, again, in year one, I feel like that's pretty solid. And as we know, this isn't going to be a very pass-happy offense. I think we know a majority of the targets are going to go to Garrett Wilson. I think Breece Hall is probably next up in the target share in the passing game after that. So there might not really be an opportunity for him to have like a Sam Laporta year or a Brock Bowers year, but that's fine. The Jets are going to be a run-heavy team. When he's on the field, you know that there's an opportunity where they can run the ball. It's not like if they have one tight end on the field and Stone Smart's out there, it's going to be a pass play, right? Like, they're throwing the ball. They're not going to run it, obviously. So I just kind of expect him to come in and be steady Eddie, just solid middle of the pack kind of tight end out of the gate.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean he's not good or not great. It just means, what we're talking about is just do what we're asking you to do and need you to do. Like, like if you don't get a lot of targets because GW is the first target and we're utilizing Breece Hall and our other running backs who also happen to be very good out of the backfield. Like if that's what our offense looks like and that's what the offense is, and then you're sharing some, maybe Jeremy Ruckert does surprise and does take that step and he gets a few hundred yards of his own, and 30 receptions. And, and then Smart's going to come in and get some. Is what we're asking is reliability. Catch the ball. Don't drop passes and end drives, right? If it's third down, don't drop the freaking ball. Catch the ball. Run the route and be where you're supposed to be. Hit the block you're supposed to block. Don't fumble. And then like the numbers might not be up to him. The numbers might be determined by the way our offense is and the way we use them. And it has nothing to do with how good or bad he is. What we just have to judge him by doing his job each play. That's why you look at, I'm not promoting it because I have a problem with their scoring a lot with PFF, but that's why you look at that kind of scoring system rather than just stats, because sometimes the player doesn't have control of how they're utilized. So you just have to look at, did they do their job on that rep?
Exactly. I like that. Zachary wants to know, is the offensive line good or is our D-line that bad that's making the offensive line look good? It's kind of like the chicken and the egg argument here. I will say, I do think the offensive line is going to be one of their most improved positions, and they're bringing a lot of the same guys back, but Membu on the right side, he's going to be such a force in the run game right away, even if it takes the pass protection maybe a little bit to really hit its stride. I'm a big Joe Tippmann fan. I know they've been kind of claiming it's a competition, but he's been running with the ones. I think he took a really nice step forward last year in year 2. And for me, guard play is going to be steady. I have no issue with AVT or John Simpson. And then Olu in year 2, that's another guy that I think takes a big step forward too. So where are you with the line?
Yeah, and I think what Zachary, what he's pointing out is what we go through every year, by the way, in training camp. Right? Every time something good happens, Breece Hall broke a touchdown. It means that the defensive line gave up a touchdown, right? And anytime a quarterback gets sacked, it means, yay, McDonald got a sack or Johnson got a sack. But what it means is one of our rookie, our sophomore tackle just gave up a sack. Like, that's the emotional distress of camp. It's like when something good happens for one side, you could look at, are you a half cup full, half a cup empty? Is it, or is half cup full kind of guy? But what I want to do is look at the individual players, right, and see how they develop and everything like that. I'm very excited, and I do about what I'm hearing about the offensive line. I hope it doesn't mean that the defensive line is bad. I hope it just means that we use 2 number 1 draft picks on tackles. One of them, I think, was looking like he was going to develop into a very good player last year. I think he did very good under the circumstances. I think that we have a young guy who's a phenomenal athlete, a freak. I think we used a number 2 pick on a center, which is very high for a center. And I think and I love Tippmann. He was one of the top 2 prospects in that draft 2 years ago. I think that we have a very good guy in AVT that we gave up a lot of asset for when we traded up for him to pick him at 17. So he's another first round pick. So you have 4 of those guys that we invested a lot of capital in. So if our offensive line is not good, we're in trouble because we invested so much in it. So, like we need, because of where we put our chips, we need that piece to be really good. We bet on that piece to be really good. And one thing that can't be overstated, I know Tony, the GM, says it's not important, but it's actually important to have consistency, to have the same players come back another year after year. Like rather than, where we have 3 new guys every year and the offensive line keeps changing. But having the, 80% of the offensive line return is really, really important. It could be really beneficial in spite of what Tony, the GM, says.
I'm going to go right back to Zachary Berner. He's got another good question a little bit further down here. Thoughts on AVT saying or word about having a single message for the team? It sounds like a lot of disconnect with the Saleh regime. There are a couple quotes like that. And some guys talked about accountability.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you saw any of Aaron Glenn's press conference today, but I loved when he was talking about why they have the referees there and the officials, because he's like, we were the most penalized. He's saying it like he was here, which he wasn't, but he's like, we were one of the most penalized teams, undisciplined team. Undisciplined teams can't win. So we're going to nip that in the bud right now. I'm like, hell yeah, sign me up for that. But it very much so feels like, Jeremy, that Glenn's coming in and he has a little bit of a mess to clean up with the previous regime.
Yeah, I mean, and it was it's actually a positive thing, because a lot of us have been saying, most of our fan base knew, it took some of us longer than me to figure it out, that we had a very serious coaching issue, right? It took us a while to figure out, but then it became very, very obvious. And we were saying, this is like we were screaming it all the time. There's no accountability. I mean, Greenby, how many times? No accountability, man. Like he would scream it all the time. It was like there's, Frankie, from Greenby to Frankie, there was nobody, disagreed. No accountability, no accountability. And now you're hearing the players say it, and they're saying it by saying that, I like the new coaching staff. He holds us accountable. That's saying there was no accountability last year. There's a reason they're saying he's holding us accountable, because that's a new feeling for them. And they were all over the place last year. They had favorites. They had guys that were allowed to do certain things and others that weren't allowed to do. It was obvious. We could see it. We didn't need the reporters. We didn't need it. You could see it by watching it on TV and watching the games. You could see the lack of accountability. It was right in front of you. And what I like about it, the biggest encouragement it gives me is, that's something that is so fixable, right? With a new coaching staff. So that's like that's an opportunity. It's such an easy opportunity for, maybe these players are better than we think. And maybe we can be a lot better than we think we could be, just by fixing that one thing, having a coaching staff that holds people accountable and demands a lot from their players consistently.
Yeah. And I don't think it was just Saleh. I think it goes down to the positional coaches too. And not to keep going back to this, but I do think Rodgers plays a little bit of a factor. And the example that I will give from last year is when they made the switch and Hackett wasn't calling plays against Buffalo. Todd Downing comes in and they were doing things a little bit differently. They used a lot more motion. They were getting a little bit more creative. And then it felt like that went away. So I wonder if it was a mix of, obviously the coaching, the messaging wasn't the same, but then if the messaging was maybe even a little bit different from their quarterback too, because, him being the veteran and kind of wanting to do things a certain way.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why they were so quick to move on from A-Rod. I think part of it was, even if A-Rod would have done the nicest thing he could do financially for us, it still wasn't going to help dead cap hit in the future. Like, there was nothing he could do, even the best case scenario. It was still going to be painful. So I think that was definitely factored in. Cost and building a team for the future was a factor. But I honestly believe that one of the main factors was, and I thought about it even before he did it, like, can a new coach come in? Is that an ideal situation? A coach comes in, they need to get ownership of the locker room. And you have this veteran that they all worship, right? He's a Hall of Famer, and everybody, is trying to please him and listen to his words, like he's, which is not a horrible thing in some situations. But is that a good scenario for a coach to come into a situation and have their first year be when the players are looking at different people, right? Having to compete or possibly contend on who the players are looking to when he's going to be gone next year. And now who are they going to look to? Because they spent the whole year with this coach not looking at him. I think Aaron Glenn just realized his own style, not even bad or good. I think he just realized, I'm a guy who needs people to see me, and then whichever coaches I tell them to see. And that's who they're listening to. And I think that it's going to be challenging to do that with Aaron Rodgers. This is all my opinion and my gut feel. Just decided that it would be too difficult. That there was going to, this is a guy who wants to run his own offense. He came in and the first thing he said was, I'm trying to decide if I want to play. That was the worst thing you could say to Aaron Glenn. I'm trying to build a team here. I don't need a guy who's deciding if he wants to play.
I'm interested was the line.
I'm interested, like bullshit.
Yes or no? You're in or you're out, dude.
I mean, think of any job interview. Imagine going into a company that you want to turn around, and now one of the most important positions in the company comes in. And it's up to you if you want to go with them or not. And you ask them, where are you right now? And he goes, I'm interested. I want somebody to come in and say, I want to be part of this, man. I want to do this with you. Maybe I'll stay on as a quarterback coach after if you have a spot for me. Like, I want to be part of this organization. I want to help turn this organization around. I will do whatever you say. I'll lead the players. That's what you want, right? Not a guy who comes in and says, I'm interested.
Yeah, maybe I'll play.
So, and not to be stuck on him, but I'm saying this more from the perspective of defending the coach's decision. It's not about Aaron Rodgers. It's me about why I respect and I understand Aaron Glenn and what he did and what he had to do.
We also have another comment from Jersey Jet says, is it safe to say the blitz is back for the gangrene defense? I definitely think so, man. Both Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks are guys that like to utilize the blitz, and some players that I think could benefit from that. Quincy Williams coming off the blitz as a linebacker, Michael Carter on a slot corner blitz. And I'll even go one further, Brandon Stevens, who, we've maybe been a little critical of him this since he's signed with the Jets, but he's shown some flashes as a blitzer too. I totally agree with this comment from Jersey Jet.
One of the biggest beefs I have that was so frustrating last year was Quinnen Williams is built to be a blitzing linebacker. He's so fast. He's explosive. And like when he got to do it, he was so good at it. And I'm like, why are we not terrorizing the other team? Like, what are we doing here? Like, and sometimes it was just like he's just sitting back in coverage and the play's not even at him. And I'm like, why isn't he? We have the speed there. Like, and Sherwood is great as a tackler. He's great on the inside, close up in the box. We saw that. That was his strength from the beginning. The first thing that impressed me about him when he first got reps, even in his before he got hurt, was he's good in the box. Let's get these guys in there. And I love that we have two linebackers we can do it with. I think that, man, I would make Quinnen Williams. My goal would be, I think he could be a guy who gets 7-8 sacks.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Quincy, I'm sorry. Am I saying Quinnen? Quincy.
You said Quinn. I knew what you meant. Quincy Williams.
Quincy, yeah.
Think about it was against Denver 2 years ago. The strip sack that Bryce Hall picked up in return for the touchdown to ice the game. That was Quincy Williams on a blitz. And then like they never really do or don't do it nearly enough. I don't think that's going to be a thing. Like you said, is he going to get 5-6 sacks as a linebacker this year? I think there's a path to it.
And when you're bringing 4, that's a huge deal, right? Because you're not talking about a 3-4 where the linebacker is supposed to get that many sacks. If you add that, 7 sacks into Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald, suddenly, oh my God, that's pretty exciting. But also the same thing on the other side of the ball, what you just said, right? We've talked about this before. Early in the season, we have Breece Hall line up on the outside. They cover him with a linebacker. He goes on the go route, touchdown. We tried it one more time the whole year. Why?
I know.
Why? You have this mismatch. You have the defense, and certain times you're going to catch them in formations where the only choice they have is to cover Breece Hall with the linebacker. We know that he's good enough as a receiver that you can't do that. That's a problem for the defense. Why wouldn't you punish them with him? Like, just line them up out there constantly until they're forced to change their defensive alignment, to have to bring in an extra safety, force them to play different than they want to play to stop your guy.
Especially this year too. I know we were talking last year, but why I think they should do it even more so this year. Why not have Breece lined up wide, Braylon Allen next to Justin Fields, and now you're going, shit, I have 3 guys that I got to account for who can get the ball here if they're going to run, or you could throw it too. Like, it just creates a mismatch for somebody on the defense.
It was just unbelievable. It's like they didn't want to cause problems for the other team. It was like they were being polite. There's only one other team that did that last year where I felt there's one team that did it for us. Same question, same thought process. The game we beat Houston, we beat them because they stopped running the ball.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we won that game. We couldn't stop the run, and yet they stopped running. Thank you. Thank you, Houston, for giving, Texans, for giving us a free win, because all they had to do was keep running and we were dead, but it's the same thing. Why are we letting the other team off the hook?
It's a great question. Johnny Boy wants to know, he says, a question for the panel: bench cut start, Stevens, AZ Thomas, and JBC. So I'll toss it to you first. Of the 3, you got to put one in each slot. Who are you starting? Who are you benching? Who are you cutting?
I mean, I make it a fair competition between Stevens and AZ Thomas. I'm hearing very good things about Stevens. There's a possibility that Stevens is much better than people think he is, and he's being utilized the right way now, right? Because he's being utilized like as a man, physical, up front, in your face, line up close to the receiver, and that might change the style of player he is. I am a huge AZ Thomas guy. AZ Thomas was definitely a guy I thought could have went in the top 40. No question about it. Wouldn't have been surprised at all. When we picked him, even though we were all screaming wide receiver and there were a couple I liked, I couldn't complain. I mean, I said that's like one of the, like, talent-wise, best player available. That was probably maybe one of the big steals of the draft. Like, the fact that AZ Thomas was there at 72 was absolutely insanity, because he's so much better of a prospect if he's ready. Because I also understand that he's a rookie, and not everybody develops at different speeds, and as much as I believe AZ Thomas has the potential to be a CB1 in this league, maybe not, I'm not saying elite top 10, but like the 20th best cornerback on a team that could be a CB1 on certain teams, but be our CB2 because we have Sauce. I think that he has that level of potential. And it's just, is he the better player than Stevens now, right out of camp? And I think that I'm going to have to put my trust in this new coaching staff that they're going to make that determination.
Okay. For this exercise, for what I would do, I think it's start Thomas, bench Stevens, cut JBC. What I think is going to end up happening is Stevens will be the starter, so naturally Thomas on the bench, and poor JBC gets cut in this scenario.
Poor JBC. I don't know if they're going to cut him. I mean, no, I mean, but they might figure out how to. I mean, we don't know how many. We don't know. We don't know how many brand new staff, brand new GM. We don't know what the breakdown is going to be. How many offensive linemen and how many receivers in the room? Like, we don't have the numbers yet. Stiggers and JBC are both two guys I would love to see us retain. Like, it would be hard to watch either of those two guys go.
We're going to end with a fun one from Dano, who says, question: when a player gets the yips, like Xavier or like Zach Wilson did, does Chaos think he could shrink them back into being confident in New York? Jeremy, what say you?
Sometimes I feel like I could. Like, I think to myself, man, I think I could be a sports psychologist. It just depends. It depends on whether it's in their minds or if it's their true ability. Zach Wilson has never proved he can complete a full, like, the pass routing tree. Like, he's incredibly limited, as much as I hate to admit it, because I didn't know that until I really was woken up to it, like, and then watched and said, oh yeah, look at that. He only throws 4 places. You have to be able to throw 8 places. So I don't know if I could fix that. I think that the most likely Xavier on punt returns definitely is a psychological thing. I don't know if I can, but there is a possibility that therapy could help him. I think that the position that therapy would help the most is field goal kickers, more than any position, because almost every one of those kickers that make the NFL, I promise you, are capable of kicking a ball. Like, they're just warming up, messing around. They're kicking 50-yarders in constantly. Then the game comes and they can't kick a 35-yarder. And then when you have guys get into slumps and they're just missing kicks inside it's all psychological. So I don't know that I'm the guy. I'm not trained at that could fix them, but I guarantee there are therapists out there that can probably help them.
I love it. That's a perfect way to end the show. Our first one back, reality check. Matt and Jeremy, we're going to be doing this on my channel weekly going forward. So make sure you come back next week when we're live. I'm sure talking about some more stuff in training camp, but that'll do it for us on this one. I'm Matt. He's Jeremy, and we'll catch you next week.